Hi, Deb. How are you?
I'm good, Zanni. How are you?
I'm very good. I'm very excited because your beautiful book, The Kindness Project, is out in the world. And as you know, I adore everything about this book, this style of writing, everything. Can you tell us what The Kindness Project is?
Yes, Zanni, you were one of the first people to read it and give me positive feedback to make me think, oh, maybe I can keep going.
Yes.
So basically, the story is there are four kids who've been chosen to be in a group where they've been given an assignment called the Kindness Project. And what they have to do is come up with something that makes the world a better place. They've got the whole term to do it. And at the end of term, there's going to be a presentation night to all their family and friends. But the four kids have been put together, can't stand each other. So they have to work a way to just like work together and be able to kind of present a kindness project. And as it happens, of course, as these kids get to know each other, they realize they have way more in common than not, including some pretty big worries. And they do manage to work together and actually stand together too when one of them faces a pretty big crisis. And they come up with this brilliant kindness project at the end.
It's so beautiful. I mean, just the title is a complete winner. Who's not going to love that title?
Well, it was one of those titles too, titles. Sometimes
Mhm.
you can experiment with lots and lots of titles. This
No.
one always was,
Yeah.
and the Kindness Project. That's the only title this book was ever going to have.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's the only one suitable. But the style of writing is really different to what you've ever done before, right?
Yes, it's funny because the story came quite quickly and the characters became like really clear and really crisp quite fast.
Mm.
But the writing style, it kept on wanting to be written in verse. Now, I love verse novels. I am not a poet, and I just thought I will spend the rest of my days picking up any verse novel I can because I love them so. And then I thought, well, I think I just have to go with this, because you and I have been writing for a long time. And so you kind of have to trust too that when your instincts are pushing you somewhere, go with it, no matter how scared I was. And I was scared. And so I thought, I'm just going to do this. And then it just sort of came out that way. And I loved it because I
Mhm.
got to play with fonts and size and with sort of, oh, it was so, so, so much fun. Then, of course, I had to pitch it to my publisher, and I was nervous about that because I've had the same publisher for like 20 years. And she, when she first saw it, went, oh my gosh, verse novels. I love verse novels.
Oh,
So it
good.
was so freeing, I have to say, to write in a completely different form than I've ever written before or ever thought possible.
And you've taken the verse novel format, which has become, I remember reading my first one, one of Pip Harry's books.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
The Next Wave years ago, and feeling like, oh, what is this? This is
Yes.
amazing. How exciting. There's this whole other
Yeah.
way to write a story. But you've taken the verse novel format and then played with it even more, which I love. Like the way you're talking about these font sizes, and you haven't got a page you can show us yet because you haven't got your actual book,
Mm.
yet, which it must be such an exciting moment to look forward to. But this the way you play with form on the page, almost a bit more like a picture book, which is what I don't know. Did you have a lot of fun with that?
Absolutely. And in fact, it was the I really wanted to be part of the typesetting of this book, which I never am, right? Because I just write
Mhm.
novels mostly.
That's brilliant.
It was so lovely to have the way a word was written on a page to be also how I wanted meaning to be conveyed.
Yes.
And so if something is scary, the letters are often big and in a pretty scary font, or if a character feels really low and invisible,
Mm.
it'll be a really light font and it'll be really, really small, or it was it was so much fun. And in fact, because I got to play with that, I almost forgot to be nervous about the fact that I'd never done this before and I didn't know what I was doing. And I thought, Deb, just play. And I
Yeah,
know you and I in our critique group talk about this a lot. Just play.
play.
Think of the joy of the story. Think about your characters, what they want, where they're going to go, and trust that. And it was complete fun.
Well, that's what it feels like to read. And I remember those very early drafts and you coming in with this sort of trepidation, like, I've got this thing and I don't know about it. And what do you guys think? And yes, as you said, I was very enthusiastic. Yeah, it's straight away just sung with
Thank
confidence, actually. Like, even though you haven't done this before, even though it's coming from this kind of new place, it feels so certain about itself, which, you know, I think is a really lovely thing. You know, it really did seem to take on its own shape, didn't it?
Yeah, I think it did. And it felt
Mm.
like the novel knew what it wanted to be before I had any idea.
Yes. Yeah. It's
And the
quite positive.
story,
Yeah.
yes, which is so sweet. And the story kind of, it actually started in a really light way too, because the story, the first scene I got in my head was of a kid, a young girl kidnapping her grandma from a nursing home, which they call Alcatraz. And so it was going to be Escape from Alcatraz, which is, you know, for me, it was very funny. And I thought it was, oh, this is just going to be a light, lovely story about a love between a nana and a kid. And I loved my gorgeous nana, who wasn't a cuddly cake baking kind of nana. She was scrawny and thin and, you know, squarey. And I loved her. But then, you know, as it happens when we write stories, we ask questions of our characters. Who are they? Why are Nana and this kid really close? Where's mum and dad? Where are her friends? And, you know, does this kid only feel at home with Nana? And so as I asked more questions, I realized that actually this story is way bigger than just an escape from Alcatraz. And in fact, the escape from the nursing home is the catalyst. It's literally that inciting incident that really brings to the fore all the other bigger issues that I wanted to talk about in this novel.
Yeah, that's so interesting. So you really did just have to follow the novel
Yeah.
into itself, didn't you, to discover all these other wonderful characters. Oh,
Yeah.
the characters in this are just divine, as are the friendships. I think Leaf is just, oh,
Mm.
he makes my heart melt, that little character.
That is so lovely because, of course, we have to love our characters. But I
Yeah,
think one of the jobs as writers is to try and get our readers to fall in love with our characters as well.
well, you've
And
done
Leaf,
that.
from the very first second I saw Leaf,
Mhm.
I loved the living daylights out of that kid. He was
You can
this
tell.
beautiful, funny, gorgeous, skinny as a leaf kind of
Mm.
kid, but drew these brilliant comics that is,
Mm.
yeah, his mum, who's an illustrator, actually taught him to draw, and that's one of the things they do together. But we discover sort of fairly early on, I guess, that something is going on in Leaf's life. He's actually new to the school. And so, of course, my question was, well, why is he new to the school? What's going on? And at the same time, a friend of mine was unwell, and she lives with schizophrenia. And a band of us get together when she's unwell, and we drop the kids to school or bring them home and give them hummus and carrots while we do their homework, and you know, that kind of stuff. And when she's better, she becomes gorgeous, wonderful, funny, lovely, artistic, brilliant mum again.
Mm.
And I thought at the same time, when my friend was getting better, she said, "You don't hear enough about this kind of thing, especially schizophrenia in books." And so I thought, that's why Leaf's at school. And I
Oh.
instantly loved him even more because I knew he loved his mum, his beautiful, brilliant, artistic, cherry strudel making mum. But at the moment, she is unwell. And that's his kryptonite. That's the only thing that can hurt Leaf, his mum being unwell. But
Oh.
she will get better. He's determined she will get better. And I adore him for how much he loves his mum. I adore him for how he just sees Nicolette. Like he sees her, he
Yeah.
draws her, and she becomes a superhero in his mind, but also on the page. And I don't know. We fall in love with our
I
characters,
fell in
don't
love with him too. And, you know, he is kindness embodied, isn't he? He's just, if you had to draw kindness, it's Leaf. Like it's,
we?
what an amazing kid. Everyone wants a friend like him. Or in fact, all of the kids in this friendship group, which, and DJ, he really warms to you. You warm to him as you get to know his story. But I like that too about your characters. You know, they're not two-dimensional. You know, they have their entry point, but there's just so much more to know about them, and the way you bring them together is just so beautiful.
Thank you. Thanks, Annie. Well, it's all part of the critique group to helping me, asking me questions, pushing me. This critique group pushes me and says, that's too easy, or we don't know enough about that person, or why do they behave like that? And then I go away and then I ask more and more questions. And that's how it develops from
How it happens.
hopefully this
I feel a
two-dimensional.
lot with this project. It felt a lot of what we were doing was almost like uh validating you. You were like, is this like, you know, is this okay? What do you think? It's like, keep going, Deb. This, whatever you're
Oh,
doing, wherever this is coming from, just keep channeling it because it's beautiful.
thank you.
Do you want to end with just a little tiny read from this? I know,
Yes.
yeah, because just to give us
Yeah.
of this story, because it is so specific.
Well, and yeah, and of course there aren't chapters, there are verses,
Mm,
but it's very much a verse novel. It's very much
mm,
written as a narrative. There's a three-act structure. There's the whole thing that I
mm.
normally put into a book. But I want to read, so there's a verse called How I Feel When I'm with DJ. And DJ is the bully who has literally bullied Nicolette ever since they first met in kindergarten. And this is what she says after she's discovered they've been put in the group together to work on this kindness project. How I feel when I'm with DJ. When I was 7, I went to the Easter show with my Nana and Grandpop. I begged them to take me on the hurricane. Grandpop worried I'd be too scared, but I promised him I wouldn't. I begged and begged and begged until they both gave in. Grandpop sat beside me as the car climbed higher and higher until we fell down, 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 faster and faster. I felt sick and scared, but I couldn't scream because all the air was snatched from my lungs and there was nothing I could do to make it stop. That's how I feel when I'm with DJ.
Oh, that's beautiful. And I can see those words on the page getting higher and higher and
Higher and higher. That's right. Faster and faster.
yeah. Oh, it's just, I'm delighted for kids to get to meet these characters, get to read this book, to feel that kindness in their heart. So thank you for sharing all of that with us. It's beautiful.
Thank you, Zanni.